just becoming a CEO of a shoe company is not gonna give you happiness.
Women have it so mixed up. There is no such thing as balance. That is such a myth. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO.
Carefully to the audio. Take a listen.
A lot of this could be done without me, but we have a great board, and God forbid if something happens, they'll figure it out. I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me.
Sort of a weird ending there. That is clearly an edited audio. That's very clearly edited audio.
Charlie Kirk made it crystal clear mothers belong at home with their young kids, not climbing the corporate ladder to grab CEO titles. That's been his stance his whole life, and now his own words are out there proving exactly what he always believed. But here's where it gets interesting. Turning Point USA wants everyone to believe that just 2 months after saying that, Charlie did a complete 180. They're claiming that Charlie told his wife Erika, with 2 small kids still at home, that if anything ever happened to him, he wanted her to step in as CEO. And supposedly, there's a video of him saying it. So where is that video? They chose not to release it. Not a single second of footage. Now let's look at what Charlie actually said. In April 2025, just months before his passing, Charlie had Erika on his own podcast to talk about family, faith, and building a successful life. That episode is still sitting right there on his official YouTube channel, published the 13th of April 2025. Go look for yourself. During that episode, they discussed a study claiming that married women with kids are the happiest.
The study shows that married women with kids are the happiest. Why do you think that is? I mean, it's just nature. I mean, just becoming a CEO of a shoe company is not gonna give you happiness.
And Charlie's reaction? It said everything. Then Erika jumped in and took it even further, saying it's straight up a myth that women can have it all. She made it explicit. Mothers should only focus on their careers after their kids are older. So there it is, laid out in plain sight. Charlie believed women with young kids should not be CEOs. And Erika said it herself. Mothers should not chase a career during those first few years, because they will miss out on those precious moments with their children. So how old are Erika's kids right now? According to Erika's own Wikipedia page, she and Charlie have 2 children, a daughter born in 2022 and a son born in 2024. A People magazine article confirms that Erika and Charlie celebrated their daughter's 3rd birthday in August 2025, just weeks before Charlie passed. Their son was born in May 2024. Now, look at this timeline closely. Charlie was gone on the 10th of September 2025. Just 8 days later, on September 18th, Erika was named CEO of TPUSA. That means she stepped into one of the largest conservative organizations in the country when her daughter was only 3 and her son was just 16 months old. But she sat across from Charlie months before and said she would never miss those precious moments with her kids. Her own words from April 2025.
I can't spend half of the day doing one thing. I missed out half of that time with being with the kids. So like you have to choose where your heart has to be fully with the home. If you miss those precious first few years, that is so hard to make up because memories are so much more important than an added paycheck.
Memories are so much more important than an added paycheck. Yet nobody seems to want to ask Erika why she chose the paycheck over those memories, especially with 2 little ones who just lost their father. And instead of addressing that, Erika now appears far more concerned about people questioning her CEO qualifications. She made that clear in her video message after the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where she pushed back hard against anyone doubting her leadership skills. And what's Erika actually most upset about? Not people calling her out for being away from her kids, but a skit he made about her and people saying she's not qualified to run the show. Here's what makes it even stranger. TPUSA still has that podcast episode up. The one where Erika sat down with Charlie and said you cannot have a career when you've got young children at home. You'd think that would have been quietly deleted by now, because it completely contradicts everything she's doing today. Erika has hinted in several interviews that she never actually wanted the CEO role. She keeps saying she didn't ask for this and had no options left after Charlie was taken from her. She even told CBS News at a town hall that she's passionate about running TPUSA because it's a remaining, breathing version of her husband.
Women have it so mixed up. You can have a career after children, but if you try to have a career while you have your kids, there is no such thing as balance. That is such a myth. Gigi gets those little Montessori toys every month, and there's this one that has the buckets that balance. If I put something in one of those buckets, it's going to drop down. And if I try to balance them, both buckets are filled, which is not realistic. I can't spend half of the day doing one thing. I missed out half of that time with being with the kids. So like, you have to choose where your heart has to be fully with the home. You have to make that decision on your own, but you can always, after your kids are in school or after they're in high school, you can always go back to work. You can always find a way to get back into the workforce. But if you miss those precious first few years, that is so hard to make up, because memories are so much more important than an added paycheck.
But here's the thing, her actual children are also a remaining, breathing version of Charlie. And let's be straight about something people keep dancing around. Erika had real options. She had financial security that most people will never see in their lifetime. She had the freedom to step back, grieve, heal, and raise her children out of the spotlight. Nobody was forcing her hand. Nobody put a contract in front of her and said sign or else. The choice was hers, and she made it. Most people outside of conservative media circles had never even heard of Erika Kirk before Charlie passed. She wasn't the face of any major TPUSA campaign. She wasn't leading summits or running operations behind the scenes in any visible way. So when the board unanimously handed her the top seat just 8 days after Charlie was gone, a lot of people started asking serious questions, and those questions have never really been answered. This is where it gets really bizarre. When TPUSA made the announcement on September 18th that Erika Kirk had been unanimously elected as the new CEO and chair of the board, they included a very specific claim. They wrote, "In prior discussions, Charlie expressed to multiple executives that this is what he wanted in the event of his passing." That's a significant statement. That's the entire foundation of her legitimacy in that role.
Every morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO.
But think about what's missing from it. No names, no dates, no documentation, no receipts. Just a claim sitting there asking you to take it on faith. Who are these executives? When did these conversations happen? Were there witnesses outside of TPUSA leadership? Was anything written down, recorded, or formally documented before Charlie passed? These are basic questions, and not one of them has been answered with anything concrete. In any other organization, a leadership transition of this magnitude would come with a paper trail. There would be board minutes, legal documentation, formal succession planning on record. But here, the entire justification rests on unnamed people saying Charlie told them something privately. Then comes the Aspen audio. At the start of America Fest in December 2025, TPUSA played an audio clip they claim was recorded at a private retreat in Aspen, just weeks before Charlie passed away. According to them, this recording captured Charlie's response when a Turning Point donor asked him directly, "What would happen if you died?" And Charlie supposedly answered that he would want Erika to step in and take over the organization. Now, on the surface, that sounds like exactly the kind of proof that would settle everything. A recording of Charlie's own voice in his own words naming his successor.
So you have made a lot of comments that a lot of people have noticed about women, suggesting that women should get married young, they should prioritize family over their careers. And at the same time, you are now doing both.
I didn't ask for this. Obviously it's a blessing that I view it as a blessing. So stepping into this role is not so much a job title. This is not a 9-to-5 for me. This is something that I'm very passionate about because it's still a remaining breathing version of my.
Case closed, right? Not so fast. Because when people actually listened to that audio, something felt off. The clip didn't flow the way a natural, unedited conversation would. There were moments where the pacing shifted in a way that felt stitched together, and one person in particular wasn't going to let that slide quietly. Candace Owens called it out publicly on her show, telling her audience that the last portion of that audio sounded edited, spliced, or possibly even generated using AI tools. She didn't whisper it or hint at it, she said it directly and put her reputation behind the claim. That's a serious accusation to make about an organization as large and influential as TPUSA, and it immediately blew the roof off the conversation. TPUSA's response? They came back and said they actually have full video footage of Charlie making those exact statements. Video, not just audio. Something that would show his face, his body language, the full unedited moment. That would be the ultimate proof, something nearly impossible to fake convincingly, and something that would make Candace's argument fall apart immediately. So why won't they show it? Their explanation was that releasing the video would put Erika's safety at risk. Blake Neff, the producer and new co-host of The Charlie Kirk Show, went on X and pushed back against Candace directly. He argued there was no point in releasing the footage because Candace would simply dismiss it as AI-generated or claim it was a hologram. He framed it as a lose-lose situation where no evidence would ever satisfy her. But Candace wasn't having it. She fired back with a question that cut straight through the noise.
A lot of organizations and groups, as soon as a founder leaves, it just kind of collapses. A lot of my job is not always in the day-to-day details. It's very much vision casting, very much driving success. But we have a great board, and God forbid if something happens, they'll figure it out. I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me.
If you're really holding the video because you're worried about Erika's safety, then why would you release the audio in the first place? And that right there stopped a lot of people in their tracks. Think about the logic for a second. If the concern is genuinely about protecting Erika from threats or harassment, then releasing any portion of that material, audio or video, carries the same risk. You can't claim the video is too dangerous to share while simultaneously broadcasting the audio to thousands of people at a major public event like America Fest. That argument doesn't hold together, and Candace knew it. The crowd watching knew it. And if you're being honest with yourself, you probably know it too. If that Aspen video is real, if it clearly and unmistakably shows Charlie Kirk naming Erika as his chosen successor in his own voice and on camera, then releasing it would do something extraordinary. It would end the entire debate in one move. It would silence every critic, validate Erika's position completely, and protect TPUSA's reputation going forward. The upside of releasing it is enormous. So the fact that they continue to sit on it raises a question that nobody at TPUSA seems willing to answer directly. What exactly is in that footage that makes releasing it more complicated than keeping it hidden? And while all of this back and forth is happening publicly, that podcast episode is still sitting right there on Charlie's official YouTube channel. The one from the 13th of April, 2025.
And I gotta tell you, the more I listen to it, the more AI it sounds to me.
I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erika would do a great job. I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erika would do a great job. I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erika would do a great job.
It just doesn't flow.
The one where Erika looked Charlie in the eye and talked about how mothers cannot afford to miss those early years. The one where she said memories are worth more than any paycheck. TPUSA has had every opportunity to remove it. It would take about 3 seconds, but it's still there, which means either nobody thought it would become a problem or somebody decided leaving it up was worth the risk. Now, Erika has given several interviews since taking over, and in most of them she circles back to the same theme. She frames the CEO role not as ambition, but as obligation. She describes it as a calling, something she felt she had no choice but to accept because Charlie built something too important to let fall apart. At the CBS News town hall, she said she is passionate about leading TPUSA because the organization is a remaining, breathing version of her husband, a living monument to everything he stood for. And that's a genuinely emotional thing to say. Nobody should dismiss the grief behind those words. Losing a spouse suddenly and violently is one of the most devastating things a person can go through, and doing it publicly while the whole country is watching adds a layer of pressure that most people will never experience. That part deserves real acknowledgement. But here's where it gets complicated. Because Erika herself, in her own words just months before all of this happened, described her children as her most important priority. She talked about the irreplaceable nature of those early years. She and Charlie built a public image together rooted in traditional family values, with the message that a mother's presence at home during those formative years is not optional, it is essential. That wasn't a throwaway comment. That was a core part of what they preached to millions of followers. So when the same woman who delivered that message steps into a high-pressure, high-profile CEO role with a toddler and a 1-year-old at home, people are going to notice the gap between the message and the reality. That's not cruel. That's paying attention. And the fact that Erika seems far more bothered by people questioning her qualifications than by people pointing out that contradiction says something all on its own. The skit clearly got under her skin. The commentary about whether she was ready to lead a major organization clearly landed in a sensitive spot. But the question of whether she is living by the values she and Charlie publicly championed, that one seems to get a pass. Nobody in her immediate circle is pushing on it. Nobody at TPUSA is bringing it up in interviews. It's the loudest question in the room that everyone inside the organization is pretending not to hear. And there's another layer here that doesn't get talked about enough. TPUSA is not a small operation. It is one of the most well-funded and politically connected conservative organizations in the country. It runs major events, manages massive donor relationships, oversees media operations, and operates with the kind of complexity that typically requires years of executive experience to navigate. Dropping into that role from the outside, with no prior visible leadership experience at the organization, is not a small ask, regardless of who you are or what your last name is. That doesn't automatically mean Erika is doing a bad job. It doesn't mean she's incapable, but it does mean the questions about her qualifications are not coming from nowhere. They are coming from people who understand what running an organization like that actually requires, and who noticed that the transition happened in 8 days with no public search, no transparency, and no explanation beyond a claim that Charlie whispered his wishes to some unnamed executives at some unspecified point before he passed. The whole thing raises a broader issue about how power moves inside organizations like this. When a founder passes unexpectedly, there is always a scramble. There are people who move fast, people who consolidate, and decisions that get made before the dust settles and anyone outside the inner circle realizes what just happened. Whether that's what occurred here is something only the people inside TPUSA truly know. But from the outside, the speed of it, the lack of documentation, the hidden video, the questionable audio, and the refusal to answer basic questions all paint a picture that is hard to ignore. So here is where everything lands. You have a public figure who built her platform on the idea that mothers of young children should be home, not in boardrooms. You have an organization claiming her late husband handpicked her for the top job, but refusing to show the clearest proof they say they have. You have audio that multiple people say sounds wrong, video that apparently exists but is too dangerous to release, and a podcast episode that directly contradicts the current situation still sitting online for anyone to watch. And you have a woman who said on camera that memories matter more than paychecks, now running one of the most powerful conservative organizations in America while her children are still in diapers. None of this means anyone is lying. None of this means the worst interpretation is the correct one. But it does mean the story that TPUSA is selling has holes in it. Real ones. And in a world where these same people have made transparency and accountability central to their public brand, those holes matter. TPUSA wants your trust without giving you the evidence that would earn it. They have audio that sounds off, video they say exists but won't show, executives they won't name, and a timeline that raises more questions the closer you look at it. At some point, asking for blind faith stops being leadership and starts being something else entirely. So keep your eyes open. Keep asking the questions nobody inside that organization wants to answer. Because the receipts are already out there on YouTube, in their own press releases, in Erika's own words from April 2025. You don't need anyone to hand you the truth. You just need to be willing to look. If this had you thinking, hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe so you never miss when we drop the next one. And let us know in the comments, do you think that Aspen video is real? And should TPUSA release it? See you on the next one.